What did we learn in game 2 of this series against the Milwaukee Bucks? Will Ime Udoka's attitude get these guys to attack more? Plus, Grant Williams, good at basketball. Derrick White, also good at basketball. I'm going on a big campaign to prove that Derrick White is good at basketball right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you for making the show part of your daily routine and your first listen every day. This is a Monday through Friday podcast, generally speaking, but during the playoffs, bonus podcasts all over the place. Who knows? Maybe sometimes I'll even go 7 days in a week just to give you something new. People are consuming the podcast voraciously. I think that's what goes along with covering a good team. When your team is winning a game like the Celtics did in game 2, people want to hear about it. And I'm sure everybody's podcast is doing great right now. So thank you all for including Locked On Celtics in your podcast listening routine of obviously making it your first listen every day. Show's free. It's available everywhere. It's on YouTube. Watch the show on YouTube. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars right here in my hand. You can get it in my website, johnkaralis.com, signed personalized copy for $30. And I was one of the media voters for the Celtics 75th anniversary team. Those are my credentials. That's all that stuff. Today, it feels like we're like 2 weeks away from game 3. So let's just kind of like relive the glory of game 2. We'll talk a little bit about Grant Williams. We'll talk a little bit about Derrick White. We'll talk a little bit, maybe some abstract stuff. We'll get into, we'll let it flow. And I say we because it's me and it's my good friend, Tom _NBA. What's going on, man?
What up? How you doing, man?
I'm doing just fine. So I've been kind of going solo here for the past few days. So let's just start off with a little softball, a little underhand toss. Whew.
I like it.
What are your initial thoughts after game 2?
Oh, that nice that nice first question to get the ball rolling.
Just this is like a warm. This is layup lines. Give me your initial thoughts.
The press conference special. I love it.
Yeah, you can't start asking about pickup points in all starting your sets up high right away. You got to let it. So, Ime, what did you think about your adjustments?
Jaylen was good. Talk about Jaylen. Yeah. Well, Jaylen was good, so we could talk about Jaylen. I thought.
Can I just admit something? I have to cop to something here. I committed the Cardinal reporter sin, and I did it twice. I was off my game post game 2. I did 2 talkabouts.
I hate that people care so much about talkabouts. I
did it. I care.
I do not care about talkabouts. The whole point of asking a question is to get an interesting answer, and if the way you do that is say talk about. Fine. I understand.
I don't like it. It's my thing. Because I take pride in formulating the questions a certain way so as to elicit a certain response. Not so how did you feel out there? I mean, sometimes you do that. Sometimes sometimes there are no questions being asked at first, and give me the microphone. I gotta start it. I gotta start something.
Right.
Nobody wants to start and be like, so how'd you feel out there? But the talk about fine, every once in a while it's fine. But so you said you were gonna not help as much. You didn't. Can you just talk about that a little bit? Yeah. It's more of a demand. Ime, I demand you talk about this thing. Please talk about it and give me sentences to add to my story.
I hear you, and I understand why it's a faux pas, and at the same time, I'm also just I don't know. The point is to get an interesting answer from a guy that you're interviewing. So, I let you off the hook, even if you don't, and I respect you not letting yourself off the hook.
Okay. So, Tom, talk about Jaylen Brown.
I will. Yeah. I mean, look, I think the Celtics, I just thought it was an interesting game because there was like the Celtics were much better, obviously. And so much of them being much better was the fact that they made jumpers that they missed in the first game. I know Ime talked, they did get better looks. They did generate better looks, and that matters quite a bit. Like, the ball moved around a lot. They broke through the pressure a lot, right? And I think part of breaking through the pressure was making shots and was, kind of like cracking open the defense that really just, had them in jail in game one. So, I thought, I don't know how much I feel like we've learned in the first two games. I think, like the Bucks stole one. The Celtics, kind of need to steal one in Milwaukee now. And I don't know. I wouldn't be at all surprised if things go back to Boston, knotted up at 2-2 again. But I do think like the Celtics do, like they've shown some things that really do look sustainable. They've shown some things that do look like they could. They've got guys who can do some good things against Giannis and Antetokounmpo, and that if I'm the Bucks, I'm a little scared of that. If I'm the Celtics, I'm a little scared of the fact that I am yet to generate anything consistent, inside the paint. But I think you could say the exact same thing about the Bucks, which again is why I think we might come back to too. So, interesting game. Celtics played well. We're going to get into Grant Williams. I thought he was great. Jaylen bouncing back was good to see for him, and the buckets down the stretch were impressive. But yeah, I just think these are to me the two best teams in the Eastern Conference, and I don't think it's that close. So should be a fun series.
Yeah, no, I think if we're gonna sit here and say what have we learned from this series, you're right. I don't think we've learned a whole lot.
Yeah,
and that's you had one game where the Celtics just couldn't hit a thing, and one game where they hit 46% of their 3-pointers. And you can say, like, within that, you can say, well, I feel like we've learned, or at least it was reinforced, that when you generate 3-pointers the right way, they have a better tendency to fall because you're in the rhythm of passing. And I like the rhythm of drive, kick, make a play. Everyone's engaged. When you finally get that good open shot, you're like, it just flows. You catch it, and it's no thinking at all. Getting it one pass away, there's just no flow to it. There's nothing there, and sometimes a guy's just hot, and yeah, you just got to live with that. And Jaylen definitely hit a couple of 3-pointers there, where I was like, oh, he's just feeling it now.
Yeah.
But I feel like because the Celtics generated the shots that they did, that's why a lot more shots fell. They just created a lot more open corner threes. They did a good job of hunting those and not just settling for those above the break threes that Milwaukee is kind of fine with, especially against the Celtics, because the Celtics only have a couple of shooters that you can say are elite from three. So I think within that, move the ball, very simply, move the ball is a very strong strategy against the Bucks. I love Ime's quote about, look, they're not Wilt Chamberlain in there.
That was very funny.
We can attack these guys. Like, go in there and attack, get into the middle. Brook Lopez is elite. Giannis is elite at the rim, but they're not an elite defense necessarily against the ball movement because they're so focused on the middle of the floor that a few passes gets everybody bunched up, and the stuff on the outside is kind of there. So, which means basically expect 40, 45 3-pointers a game because that's how this is going to go.
It is. I think you hit the nail on the head, honestly, because I think that was what Ime said, was that the threes are always going to be there. So if we're going to get them, let's get them in rhythm. Let's get them in after several passes. Let's see if we can get something else, first. Let's see if you can generate. And yeah, if the Bucks do like to give up threes, so you might not get anything else in the middle of the paint. You might not get an easy floater, or you might not get much going to the rim, but you might, And it's better to try to explore for that first and then take the good shot that you could have gotten right away too. I just think that makes a lot of sense, especially, the Bucks have so much size. Like the Celtics aren't, you certainly can't guarantee that you're going to get offensive rebounds the way that you could against the Nets. So yeah, I mean, look, I think I thought it was much better offense. You did see a couple of times. I mean, there was that one play where that Jaylen kind of initiated, where the ball just rocketed around for what it must have been like 19 seconds before Al finally got like a little flip in. And it's like, if you generate those types of shots, other things are going to start to crack. Like Milwaukee's defense has been so aggressive and so focused on disruption and then, stuff in the paint that, like, if the Celtics can break the disruption and just like not turn the ball over and then move the ball around, there's going to be cracks. Like they're just defending too hard. They're up too aggressively. Like things are going to fall apart. So yeah, I think it is very essential that the Celtics continue to do that, because like Ime said, like you said, the threes are going to be there. You can always take them. They're going to be good shots, but just try to get other good shots first and then take those if the first one doesn't materialize.
To that end, I just want to one more comment about the Ime quote, but I will do that after I talk to people about BetOnline and the way these things swing from game to game. Now the number one odds after the loss to game one, the odds changed and Boston was dropped to like fourth, and now the number one odds for exact NBA championship matchup is Celtics versus Suns, and Celtics versus Warriors is second. And so I guess the bettors after game two at BetOnline have just decided that, we believe in them again. Jayson Tatum is 9-2 odds for finals MVP, tied with Devin Booker and just behind Steph Curry. So that's the type of stuff you're going to find on BetOnline, your number one source for all your betting stats, your sports information, everything there from not just the basketball playoffs, but baseball. There's the Kentucky Derby is coming up. Is that right? Wow, geez, I didn't realize that. All sorts of things. Esports, live in-game betting. JB goes off for 25 points in the first half. You want to put a line on what he's going to do in the second half? That's all there at BetOnline. So head on over, use your mobile device, head on over, use your laptop, whatever it is, to BetOnline. It's where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Why not make your second listen? Locked On NBA Big Board. We are getting close to the draft. It's coming along pretty quickly. And Rafael Barlow from the NBA Draft Junkies and author of the NBA Big Board newsletter is carrying this Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. He's joined by Richard Stamen, Sam Ferris, Leif Tulin. But it's Rafael Barlow who is one of the preeminent now draft guys. He's done a great job. He's out there scouting people in person. He's not just relying on videos. So check out Locked On NBA Big Board for all your draft coverage after you listen to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Tom, let's bring Tom back here. I mentioned this a little bit in yesterday's podcast, but I want to get your take. I've come to the conclusion that whenever Ime is like super confident about something, believe it. I'm buy 100% in, because this dude, he exudes confidence anyway. He's a no BS kind of guy. I think he's just the type of person who's gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability. I have confidence that I'm going to get this done. If I don't, I don't, but I'm going to give it my best shot. But then he gets like that Wilt Chamberlain comment was just like, almost like hey guys, I respect these guys out there. I respect Brook Lopez and Giannis, but like, let's also be real here. Like, he's basically telling us like, really? Are we really going to treat these guys with this level of deference? I don't think so. I don't think that's how this should go. And like wrapped up in that little comment is so much. And like part of it is almost disdainful for the way the Celtics approach that and the way people on the outside approach that. It's like, yeah, they're good, but like it's still Brook Lopez. Like you can move him. You can attack him. There are ways to do it. So go do it. I just love the attitude behind it. And that just makes me say, game 3, I feel like there's going to be a whole lot more attacking going on.
I think you might be right. I mean, I think you could. It's interesting because I think you could also, like, guys, they're not Will Chamberlain down there. I think you could also say like that, like the same thing, but the whatever the guard version of that is about Javon Carter. It's like, okay, he's very aggressive and he's up in you and everything, but he's not
Gary Payton out there.
Not Gary Payton. He's not Tony Allen out there. He's Javon Carter. Like, he's good.
Yeah.
Good little guard. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't mean to sound too dismissive, but like, I do think, Ime's right. Like, okay, Giannis is elite defender, no question about it. And Brook is very good around the rim. But even yesterday, there was that one play where Jaylen attacked the rim. Tatum cut from the other side as Jaylen was attacking. Brook Lopez steps up. Jaylen wraps the pass around. Tatum gets the layup.
Yep.
There was, the play where I think Jaylen missed the layup. I think Al missed the putback, but like Rob was coming in, or somebody missed a putback, and Rob was coming in behind the play. Brook Lopez had come out of position because he was contesting. Rob gets the easy putback. Like, there are ways to attack, a rim protector. There's ways to attack even an elite rim protector, right? Like, the Celtics have never had that much trouble with Rudy Gobert. Why would Brook Lopez be so difficult to deal with? Like, and part of the answer is that Brook also has Giannis, right? Like, that there is this other guy in there who is also, like freakishly good at defending the rim. But yeah, I mean, I hear what Ime is saying. Like, and I do think, it's interesting that this is the second game in a row where Ime has projected a lot of confidence in a certain type of way because, after game 1, he was just like, look, we didn't do anything right offensively. Like, he hated the way they played offense in game 1. And, I think clearly he felt a little better after game 2, but I mean, it's also, like you said, it's also clear that he thinks that they can do a lot more in the paint. So yeah, I'll be very curious to see, how they go about that, and also whether it's a schematic change or whether it's just like a mindset thing where more guys are focused on it. As it I felt like there were more schematic changes in game 2 where it was kind of like, okay, move the ball a little bit more, just kind of try like, don't take the first shot. It might just be like, I don't know, just go at him. Like, that might be what Ime says.
Just drive. Fake, because he's gonna bite for it. They're all gonna bite for
it.
They're
all biting on everything.
And then go up and draw the foul, or have some cutters behind them, like that Tatum play that you said. Or you know what? You're Jaylen freaking Brown. Jump higher than Brook Lopez, who is 7 feet tall, but and he blocked Robert Williams.
Yeah.
But like, jump higher than him. Like, what are you doing? How are you getting blocked by him like that? Now, obviously, I say that knowing that Brook Lopez is going to block some shots because he is a very, very good defender. And I mean this with no disrespect to the Bucks defense. It's just that Ime has this attitude, and it feels like they're going to carry that attitude into game 3. If I'm looking at anything in game 3 based on just what I saw and heard, I'm thinking like, all right, they are going to find ways to attack. And also, like, I consider if you're getting into the lane and you're drawing a couple of guys and you see a bunch of arms, get that shot up off the rim, because Rob's on the weak side. And they're so focused on contesting the shot. You can get those offensive rebounds. That counts to me. So I would expect even more attacking. I'm going to expect many more points in the paint, or at least more shot attempts in the paint.
It's very interesting to go back and just if you have no life whatsoever, it's very interesting to go back and listen to Ime Udoka's like press conference, his initial one again, because there's all kind like that introductory one, because there's all kinds of little nuggets in there that after like a season of watching him, you're like, yeah, I see what you were saying there. And one of the big ones is it was kind of the big takeaway from that press conference, but it was the one where he said, don't give Kawhi Leonard too much respect, or where he told Kawhi Leonard, don't give the other superstars too much respect. Yeah. I think he's about that with everybody. Like, don't give Brook Lopez too much respect. Like, he's a good player, but like, don't give him so much that you're turning him into like, this like guy that nobody could
Right.
ever score on.
Don't drive on him and be like, oh my God, like that
Exactly,
baby gif,
right.
like come on, like, oh, and turn around and run back. Like, don't know.
Right. And I mean, he said it in the context of like, hey, Jayson Tatum, don't go to Paul George and be like, oh my goodness, you're Paul George. Like, no. Like, don't do that. But I do, I think it applies, across the board for Ime. It's just like, sure, I mean, like give the proper respect of studying a guy and trying to figure out his tendencies or whatever it might be, but like, don't act like these people are Superman compared to you because you're an NBA player. You're also Superman. Like, you made the NBA. So, I don't know, go at him.
Or maybe Batman.
Ooh.
Grant Williams.
Oh, I love it. Well done.
Thank you. Grant Williams is not giving Giannis Antetokounmpo too much respect. He, my favorite little thing in my little stupid basketball brain is not just like, it wasn't the particular play, but the where Giannis tried to back him down and he spun and lost the ball on the way up, and Grant grabs the ball. My favorite part of that game for Grant is when he just rips his arm through and like dismissively. It's like, get off of me. I was like, oh yes, that's the attitude. That's what Ime is talking about. That little thing is like I know you're Giannis, but right now you're in my airspace and you got to get out of my airspace. And I was like, that's it. Perfect. Grant has been, I keep saying it. I feel like I say it every other podcast. Grant has been fantastic defensively throughout these entire playoffs so far. And I know it's only been 6 games, but picking up Kevin Durant on switches and doing well, picking up Kyrie Irving on switches and hanging, and now picking up Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that play in the second quarter, which I tweeted out, and I've highlighted in one of the dozen Grant Williams pieces that are going out there that's going to publish in the morning on Boston Sports Journal. Giannis, right sideline, like a jet taxiing for takeoff, and builds up that momentum. And seriously, 3/4 court, full head of steam, runs smack into Grant Williams' chest and stops cold. He was at the dots inside the lane when he hit Grant, and that's where he landed, at the freaking dots. That's how strong Grant is. Can't say enough about how Grant has been able to carry this defense, carry his defense over against a guy that's impossible to stop for very long, but he's done well enough in these one-on-one scenarios where the Celtics came into game 2 saying, we're not going to help. And Grant's like, cool. And obviously Giannis scored on him, but not enough to make the difference. They need Giannis to be a Greek god, and he's been pretty good. Yeah. And pretty good Giannis is not enough.
Game 2, 28 points on 27 shots and like 7 assists. The difference between Giannis having 7 assists and 12 assists like he did in the first game, especially when all of those assists in the first game, I went back and did the numbers. 9 of the assists in the first game, 9 of his 12 were 3-pointers. And like I think it was like 7 of them were like,
it was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And 7 of them were, I think, were a direct result of basically helping one pass away.
Yeah.
Like all this, like it made such a huge difference to be able to guard him one-on-one. Grant, I mean, I've kind of hinted at this a couple of times now, but like the rookie extension that Grant might be able to demand after locking up Kevin Durant and then locking up Giannis, all after turning himself into one of the NBA's best 3-point shooters, is pretty nice. Like Grant's an NBA player, so he's already a rich man, but Grant might be a pretty rich man after this summer. Because the other thing that we know about Grant is we know he's a worker. We know he's going to get better. Like that's like he works and works and works. He studies film. He does all the stuff that he has to do. Like he'll be a better player next year, and he's pretty good right now. So if the Celtics want to get a discount on Grant Williams, I think you might have to pony up some cash here.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, I think my favorite play of Grant's yesterday, if we're doing Grant guarding Giannis plays, it was in the first half. I can't remember first or second quarter, but Giannis had him posted up, and as they're throwing the entry pass, Grant is just kind of nudging Giannis and nudging Giannis and nudging him along the baseline. By the time Giannis catches it, he's almost at the 3-point line.
Mm-hmm.
He takes like one dribble and has to turn over his shoulder toward the baseline, throws up a super tough, kind of fadeaway post-up shot. I mean, Celtics will take that 100 times out of 100. Giannis missed it. It's like that's not a good shot for him. Like, Grant is forcing him into some bad shots. Like, Stan Van Gundy on the TNT broadcast said that, like, Grant is a potential defensive player of the year guy down the road. I mean, I think that's a little early, but, like, I don't know. These
are where you plant those seeds, right? Yeah. This is where you plant those seeds. You say, exactly. Hey, like, you come out of this, people who watch these games, you come out of this and be like, man, that Grant Williams did that number. He's, he faced Durant, he faced Kyrie, he faced Giannis. Maybe he'll face Bam Adebayo or whomever. Right. Like, you go through that and you say, geez, man, this dude is handling it. He's holding his own against these guys. We're going to watch this dude. Like, I don't know about defensive player of the year, but I'm maybe not. I've gotten out of the business of saying young guys like that are at a ceiling or whatever. I've made that mistake before. Who knows?
Also, not for nothing, Stan Van Gundy has coached in the NBA, so he's one of those guys who has forgotten more than either of us will ever know about NBA basketball and evaluating young players. So, it's be interesting to watch. Grant Williams is very good, is what I'm trying to say.
Grant Williams, very good at basketball.
Very good at basketball, and just like it is interesting. So I wrote about this briefly. I just wanted to comment on it, be on Boston.com. It's very interesting what the Celtics are going to do with him next year, because he is like a starter level player. Like, full stop. The Celtics have several very good starter level players already starting. They have the league's best starting lineup. However, I looked it up on Cleaning the Glass. If you replace Horford with Grant, it's actually even better. Like, the net rating for the Celtics with that lineup, not the net. Yeah, they outscored opponents by 33 points per 100 possessions during the regular season. And obviously, I don't think that number would continue, but like, Grant in the starting lineup in place of Horford has actually been even better than their league best starting lineup. So I don't know what they do next year, because obviously they're going to keep Horford around because that guy has been unbelievable. Like, even better than Grant in many ways. But it's tough, man. Like, they've got kind of an embarrassment of riches right now.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting conversation, and I won't go too much deeper into it, but like, it does open up the possibility of, hey, look, like, you go to Al Horford and you say, look, man, you're 36, right? Now it depends. Do you win a championship? If you win a championship, then whatever. Then his contract next year is guaranteed anyway. Yeah. So that kicks in. And you run it back, or you win a championship, like, thank you, Al, bye. We're moving on. Like, we got our ring, you got your ring. Enjoy your retirement. Whatever.
That would be a Danny Ainge level cold.
That would be cold.
That'd be a little too cold. I don't think they should do that.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm just joking around. Yeah. But I do think that you could go to Al and be like, look, dude, you're 36. We're gonna bring you off the bench. Okay. We're gonna bring you off your bench. You're gonna play 25 minutes a game, and then we'll see how this goes. If it's iffy with Grant, don't worry. We know what we've got with you as a starter. In April or March, we'll make a switch. We'll get you into the starting lineup. We'll start ramping you up. 30, 32, 33. And then in the playoffs, we'll move Grant to the bench. No problem. And you can just do that and say, we're saving you.
Right.
But you do it and say, well, if Grant is still this good, And the Celtics starting lineup, you're like, hey, look, man, this is working. Keep you on the bench. Now you got Al Horford, 36, probably slowing down a little bit more, but Al Horford, 25, 30 minutes of Al Horford coming off the bench. You kind of flip the same thing. You got the same kind of dynamic. You've just rearranged things. But go ahead.
Well, also Al Horford, real quick. Also, Al Horford slowed down is pretty much just still Al Horford. Like, he's still just like dad strength in the right place, makes his threes, smart player. Like, still Al Horford.
Yeah. Let's save this for, like, I don't want to blow all my off-season content while we're still in game after game 2.
Feels like the off-season. There's 3 days off.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. All right, well, we'll say we'll put a pin in this conversation. We'll come back to it at another point. Also, put a pin in your browser on RockAuto.com. Save that, bookmark that site, because whenever you need anything for your car, truck, motorcycle, RV, anything that you're riding around with a motor, you're probably gonna find what you need at RockAuto.com. Don't bother going to one of those chain stores, the brick and mortar place on the corner there, some strip mall. No chance that they have everything that every car needs. RockAuto.com is going to have a very large selection, and you're going to be saving a significant amount of money. Some people, some places are charging 30 to 50 to 100% more than the parts you're going to get at RockAuto.com. And it's everything from super complicated, the stuff that I can't tell underneath the hood, to super simple, like I can change windshield wipers about 75% of the time. I can change a headlamp. I can do that stuff. I can get motor oil. I can put that in the car. So it's all at RockAuto.com. When you go to Rock Auto and you check out what they've got, and you do buy something, write Locked On in there, how did you hear about us box? That's the only way they're going to know that we sent you. You write Locked On in there, how did you hear about us box? It's RockAuto.com. A family business has been doing this for over 20 years. It's an amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. Can we talk a little bit about Derrick White?
Sure.
Why not? We're a basketball podcast. We can talk about these things. I do Q&A on Boston Sports Journal every Wednesday, and I got probably 6 questions on Derrick White. Are you worried about his shooting? Should they give Aaron Nesmith some run? Should they, like, people are still like, I feel like the discourse on Derrick White, the Marcus Smart discourse was still kind of floating out there, and people said, oh, look at this. We can repurpose this. We're just going to scratch out Marcus Smart. We're going to write Derrick White in there, and here we go. Oh, man, this dude's missing all these shots. He sucks. Like that, I feel like is a segment of the Celtics population. Not that, we always reference single game plus minus, knowing that it's not the be all end all, but Derrick White was on the floor as the Celtics were building 25-point lead. He was a plus 22, and he was 0 for 6. The 5 assists, the 4 rebounds, only 2 turnovers. He did get 5 fouls. Okay. Now I'm going through, I've specifically, before we started this podcast, I've gone through the whole first half. I got to go through the second half, watching just for Derrick White, just to see what he's doing out there. And I got to tell you, when you talk about little things, this is the exact type of connective tissue type of guy that the Celtics needed. Because in a lot of these plays, like there was one early play where the ball swing. He actually throws the pass to Jaylen Brown, but Al Horford kind of picks it off. It's like, oh, here you go, Jaylen. So Al got the assist to Jaylen in the corner 3. But just Derrick catching quick rip move. Like he doesn't sit there and have the ball as a pendulum and wait. He never does that stuff. If someone shoots, he's crashing from the corners. I just want to put out there into the ether continued positive Derrick White conversation, because understanding that his shot is generally way off. He did hit a couple of shots in game 1, but the other stuff, if he's only taking 6 shots, fine. The other stuff that he's doing is meaningful to what the Celtics are trying to accomplish.
Definitely. And I wouldn't say that his lack of shooting has hurt their spacing. And that's the most important thing
Yeah.
because he does a bunch of other stuff that is important, like, so to me, as long as like the Bucks aren't just like completely ditching him and demolishing the Celtics spacing, cool. Like, it's nice to have that big ball handler out there who can do a bunch of different things, who can, like set the screens, who can, like can defend a couple different positions, all that stuff, like all the stuff that Derrick White does, like it isn't being negated. So yeah, I mean, I think the Celtics would really benefit from getting Marcus Smart back in there because I think he's a little more comfortable in terms of handling the ball and everything. I mean, I actually thought they were in a lot of trouble yesterday offensively because I just thought, like, dude, if they can't break through this Bucks defense with Marcus Smart, like, what are they going to do without him? And obviously they figured a bunch of stuff out. But, like, look, obviously they want Marcus Smart back as soon as possible. But yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that I will be very curious to see what happens. And again, I don't mean to keep looking to next year. There is a lot of season left to be played. But I do think one thing to remember is that this isn't Evan Fournier, right? Like the Celtics got Evan Fournier and were like, hey, maybe we re-sign him. And then they didn't. And, it was this weird footnote. Derrick White's going to be here for a while. And I think generally when you bring a guy in around the deadline, that first year isn't his best season with your team. So I will be curious to see what he looks like next season. Once he's a little more comfortable, once the Celtics have kind of worked him in a little bit better. And, just like, I mean, we spent 4 weeks, it felt like, talking to him and Daniel Tice about, like, do you guys feel like you're in it now? Do you feel like you've kind of got the hang of things? It's like, you know what? They probably don't entirely because they had to jump into a completely new situation halfway through a season, like no training camp, no chance to get to know anybody. So anyway, that's a long way of saying I think Derrick White's going to be a very productive Celtic over the next few years. I think your point about the discourse around him being Marcus Smart-esque is probably a good one. Like, there's a lot of nuance to his game, and nuance is not the internet's specialty. So there will be some annoying conversations, but I also think that he will be a productive basketball player for the Celtics, and that he is and can be right now.
Yeah, and that's exacerbated by, sports talk radio. It's going to sit there and be like, you're going to tell me that he's got 0 points and he's important to this team? How is that possible? I don't see how that's possible. That's my sports talk. I'm working on that. I'm not sure if I want it to go big dumb guy voice or, kind of, duck hunter voice. But anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about sports talk radio is that, like, they're so good at coming up with a compelling storyline that they can make a case for that, like they're not telling the whole story, but they can make like just enough of a compelling case that if maybe maybe you're not a sicko, maybe you had some social event that night and you didn't watch the game.
Right.
You hear the point and you're like, oh yeah, good point. Anyway.
Yeah. Right. No, and look, they did put Giannis on Derrick White for stretches, and that's because they will say, go ahead and shoot. Yeah. And Giannis is going to help off of that. So there is, like, it's not like I'm sitting here and going to say, like, oh, everything's perfect with Derrick White. Don't worry about it. He's just missing a few shots. No, he's
missing a lot of shots.
He's missing a lot of shots. Yeah. That has to turn around. There's no doubt about it. Be clear. That has to turn around. He has to make more shots than 0, right? He has to make more than 0 shots. Yeah. But to your point, the 0 shots didn't hurt the Celtics. And the stuff that he did, all of the he's like, I don't know, if you look at an orchestra and like there's 3 violins and he's one of the violin, like it's in there, he's doing, but he's not. Is he the soloist? No. You've got Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum for that. Is he some percussion, or is he some big, like, no, he's just there. But the stuff that he's doing is meaningful. It's part of the entire picture. And if he wasn't there, you'd be like, something is off. Something's not, because people are talking about Josh Richardson. And I'm like, yes, Josh Richardson was shooting better than Derrick White this year. But you put Josh Richardson in there, and 10 of these plays that happened in the first half that got the Celtics to a 20-point lead don't happen because he stops, he surveys, and he tries to do his own thing. And Derrick White doesn't stop. He attacks.
Right.
You hit the play that I was talking about before. He catches the ball. Giannis is coming out. He just does a little fake. So Giannis just throws his body weight one way, and then boom, he's gone down in the middle. And now that forces help to come this way, and it forces the collapse, and then the swing. Like those little things just pull the defense a little bit. And the difference between an open shot and a contested shot is not a whole lot. And when Derrick White is doing some of the things that he's doing, he gives the guys that difference. And right now, you have to live with the missed shots. But I'd rather have all the other stuff and Derrick White struggling a little bit from his shooting than have a ball stopper in there that can hit 3-4 shots, because what Derrick White does is creates opportunities to score more than 8 or 10 points. So that's just the important thing. Just keep making the right play. And in all of the stuff that I've seen, not just the shots and all that, I didn't see a single play where he hurt the Celtics. I saw one play, one floater on the baseline that he missed that went in and out, but I was like, probably could have hit Pritchard for 3 on that play. Like, okay. But the shot wasn't bad, and if it fell, no one would really pay attention to it. So just want to put the positive Derrick White conversation out there, because it's important that he does all the other things, and it's important that he connects everything, knowing that it's all about these other guys scoring and getting them in that position to score.
Yeah, I think that last point is the maybe the most crucial one, which is just like, you will not find somebody who is more committed to the idea of the right players getting the right shots at the right time than Derrick White. Like, yeah, that is his whole thing, is like, okay, Jaylen and Jayson are the stars of this team. If I score a basket, it's because they are double teamed. Like, he very much plays within that framework, which is the Celtics' best framework, right? It's the Celtics' best framework is Tatum does his thing, Jaylen does his thing, everything else flows from there. And Derrick White is the perfect player to plug right into that. So, again, I think that's why we're going to see him over the next few years being a very productive Celtic who, on a night when the Celtics lose and he goes 1 for 7, the people who only half watch the game are like, he did nothing. So, yeah, I mean, I respect your I respect your goal, your campaign for Derrick White. I think
That's right. That's right. Thank you. I am with you though. I do think that, it's so tough to join a team midstream, and even after all of this, we say after all of this, like it happened in February, so it's like March, April. It's only been not even 2.5 months.
Yeah,
like it hasn't been that long. Feels like forever, but it hasn't been that long for Derrick White in here. I don't even know if he still has a house yet.
Yeah,
he might still be living out of a freaking hotel room for all we know, with a pregnant wife and all this stuff. So like things are a little chaotic. I agree. I think him with an off season of homework from Ime and a training camp will be very interesting to see how he feels, and a summer to be like, okay, we're buying a house. My kid is here. I feel comfortable, and like all of that stuff, and he can learn Boston things, and we'll be good. All right. Well, I think it's a good place to stop. What do you think? Feel good about this?
Feel good, man.
Yeah. Yes. That was a good podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
A1.
So, chuck that one up. We'll put that one under decent podcast.
I'll take it.
3.5 stars. All right. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for hopping on.
For sure, man. Hey, should we start a feud with the Locked On Red Sox? since we keep butting up against them. I think we should start an on-podcast feud with them.
We could. I mean, just one of those fake rap feuds that just for people who don't know, we have this recording platform, and we went to go record this podcast, and the Locked On Red Sox podcast was recording. And I feel like pulling rank and be like, we're in the playoffs here. Can you just this
is a playoff run,
guys. Us first.
Also, your team just gave up 6 runs in the 10th inning and managed to get blown out in extra innings. I think the Celtics take priority.
That's tough. Yeah. Do you really even need to talk about that game? We got stuff to talk about over here. So I'm hijacking the Locked On NBA channel for this because the Dallas Mavericks and Phoenix Suns are in the fourth quarter as we're talking. So I was like, let's just sneak in here. It's like sneaking into somebody's house to play video games for half an hour and then sneaking out. We're like, all right, let's. Not that I've ever done that. So all right, yeah. So Locked On Red Sox, go listen to Locked On Red Sox and I don't know. I can't say anything bad about them because they're good. All right, Tom, thanks.
Appreciate you.
That's the podcast. So tomorrow we will do a crossover. Just got word from Kane Pittman, Locked On Bucks. We will do a crossover episode tomorrow, and then we'll see what bonus content. I know I'm going to do a post-game Saturday podcast. It's a 3:30 game on Saturday Eastern time, so I will have a podcast up as soon as possible after that game is over. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. There's a lot of extra content here on the Locked On Celtics podcast, so you can get this podcast anywhere podcasts exist. It's also on YouTube. You can watch the show on YouTube. I should be recording from the Fiserv Forum on Saturday, so you get to see that wonderful backdrop there if you're into that sort of thing. So subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And if you are a subscriber, I would appreciate it if you share the podcast, tell your friends, tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.